Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. At the very beginning of Matthew chapter 16, we have Jesus having an exchange with the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And they ask him to give them a sign from heaven. And Jesus, talks to them about that. And there's this discussion that takes place. And then Jesus goes out on a boat with his disciples. And he warns them. He says, watch out and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees. It just had this discussion with the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and he's telling them to beware of the leaven of those guys. Well, the disciples think that he's talking about the leaven of bread, literal bread, but Jesus corrects them, and then they begin to realize what he was saying. In verse 12, it says, "Then they understood that he did not say to beware of the leaven of bread, but of the teaching of the Pharisees and Sadducees." And so Jesus was warning them not to be allured by the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Leaven has a way of making bread look good, making it look tasty, making it look edible and desirable. Leaven also has a way of spreading very quickly in the bread, and also leaven has a way of it really causes bread to spoil quicker. The leaven does. So the teaching of the Pharisees kind of had all these aspects, right? It looked good. The teachings that they gave looked good. It looked like it would be the way in which a person could be led into holiness. It was something that was digestible. Just follow these rules and you'll be on your way to being in God's favor. And then also, but what they would find is that actually it just ends up spoiling an individual if they take in that teaching. And Jesus is warning them against the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, against the teachings of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And as we think about this, we too need to beware of leaven. Now, we may not have Pharisees and Sadducees walking around, the literal ones like they had back then, but we do have a lot of teachings out there. A lot of teachings on a lot of different platforms, on a lot of different social media platforms, TV, wherever you might turn on a device, you can probably get access to teachings by individuals, and not necessarily good teachers. Some are those who just basically hand out leaven. That their teaching looks good. It definitely seems something favorable and easily digestible. But at the end, it's something that will spoil us if we're not careful. And so that's why we always have to be in God's word. Be familiar with God's word as possible. The old adage about, one way that one way that you can keep from taking a counterfeit dollar is not necessarily by knowing what all the counterfeit dollars look like, but by knowing what the real dollar bill looks like. And then once you know what a dollar looks like, then you can spot a counterfeit. And that's how it is with God's word. The more and more we're familiar with God's word, the more and more that we know what God's word teaches, the more and more we'll be able to spot a counterfeit. And to know whenever someone is trying to give us leaven. And we'll be able to go back to God's word and say, no, God's word teaches this. And therefore we'll be guarded against the leaven of whoever it might be. And so that's one of the real important parts of getting into God's word every day. It helps having God's word in the forefront of our minds, but it also helps us become very familiar with it, to know what it teaches, to know what's in there. And it helps us to then not be tossed around by every wave of doctrine, as the book of Ephesians talks about, but we'll be grounded in God's word. We'll know what it teaches, and we'll be able to guard ourselves against the leaven that might come our way and might try to destroy our faith. So here's some things we can reflect on and think about as we do our reading today. With that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.